to the Feed You podcast, giving you the real scoop on raising your business to new heights. Expert education, inspiration, and motivation to fuel your purpose, your passion, and your profits. Here's your host, Elisa Connor.
Hello. Welcome to the Feed You podcast. I'm Elisa Connor, and I am so grateful you're here. Thanks for tuning in this week. This is the podcast for small businesses who want to grow their business, scale their business, and become 6- and 7-figure entrepreneurs. We talk about sales funnels specifically every week, and this week we are talking about everyone's favorite subject, your opt-in, and why no one is opting into your email list. How many times have you set up a download or a free download and you've got it set up on your system and then no one comes? No one opts in, no one downloads your freebie, and you're like, this was so much work. Why is it not working? So I thought it was important that we sit down and chit chat about that a little bit, because a lot of people are they're online and they have free downloads. And so you may be wondering, well, how can I stand out in all that noise? How can I stand out from everybody else that's out there? Well, I have 5 actionable tips for you, as well as 5 reasons that no one is indeed opting into your email list and how to change that so that they do. Let me back up just for a minute, because a lot of times I don't talk about why it's important for people to build their email list. And that is bad on me, and I want to rectify that. So the reason that you need to build your email list is very simple. It's owned property. And once you have those names and those contacts in your email list, you have the ability to continue to market to them, and specifically market to them with information and promotions and all of that sort of stuff that you have available that they have asked for, which makes you look very different than a lot of people who just constantly send out email and spam people with their email, throwing generic information at them. And so if you're looking for a little bit more information on how to segment or tag those subscribers, you can go back and listen to, there's a previous episode in this podcast, and I do not have the number in front of me, but I will pop it in the show notes for you. It's back in the 20s, like I'm going to say 23, 24, but I will pop which episode that is into the show notes so you have it. But by segmenting and tagging those people with specific interest areas, it's much easier for you to customize that content, and you're more likely to not only get your emails opened, but you're more likely to have those links clicked on. And that's really what's important, because that's the beginning of your sales funnel. You've got people interested. They've said, hey, yeah, here's my email. I'm super excited about what you do. Those are really hot leads. And so once you can get them to take the next action, or your next piece is to get them to take the next action to show you even more what they're interested in. This is really important, especially if you have a newer business, because a lot of times when you have a new business, I know I'm one of those people, and I've had clients the same, that you're just kind of testing things out, see what's going to work, what's not going to work, and trying to gain your footing. Well, this is a great opportunity for you to learn what customers want and what customers are looking for and what problems they have, all by your email list. So an email list is very, very powerful. A lot of companies I see online, or even entrepreneurs that are, just starting out, will build all of their business on social media. Well, what happens is that you have those social media companies like Facebook and Instagram and Google and Twitter and all, Snapchat, and, going way back, you can, go to any social media platform. They're all owned by someone. And that means they make the rules, and they can change the rules anytime they want. And as you see, because Facebook's in a bit of trouble as this episode is being recorded, to the tune of $5 billion or $1 billion, I can't remember, $1 or $1 billion, for privacy issues, they're changing the rules, which means you have no control over what you can and cannot do on Facebook. And if you aren't aware, Facebook is very much a pay-to-play arena. And that being said, if you don't have a lot of budget and you don't know or understand ads, or have the time or ability to keep up on what is going on with those ads on a daily basis, you could really struggle in the marketplace. Whereas if you have a strategy in place to grow your email list and get people on your email list, and that can be done a variety of ways. I'm not going to go into those today, but you can go back and listen to multiple episodes of this podcast and it will share that information with you. But if you're building that email list on a consistent basis, those are your captive audience. And that's a great way to do research, to find out what products and services people want, as well as deliver custom content and get and offer promotions and initial offerings and such to that list because they've already shown that they're interested. So going back to today's topic, we got to get them on the list. That's priority number one, is we've got to get them on and interested in that list. And it's becoming it's becoming harder and harder because there's a lot of competition out there. People have figured out that you need a download. And so that being said, I wanted to give you some of the mistakes that people make and also ways that you can fix those mistakes because that's really important. So before we hop into those mistakes, please listen to this word from our sponsor. One of the biggest frustrations I hear from business owners on a regular basis is, I need more clients. And I get it. Every business struggles with getting new clients until you know how to do it. The problem is you spend your time networking and going to events and making phone calls that don't go anywhere. You're out trying to attract people to you when there is a much easier way. Growing your email list is so important because it fills your list with potential clients who actually want to hear from you. And it gives you the ability to reach out to them on a regular basis and share what you have to offer. To grow your email list, you have got to have a great free download. Sign up for our free newsletter isn't working anymore. You've got to create a download that piques their interest, gets them to take action, and adds them to your list. Sounds easy, right? Of course it's not easy. That's exactly why I created my new free training to help you create an awesome free download. You can sign up at elisaconnor.com/create my freebie. This live training is going to present the 5 easy steps that I've used with my clients to help them go from hot mess marketing to growing an email list that they consistently get sales from. So you don't want to miss this training. Head on over to elisaconnor.com/create my freebie and sign up today. I'll see you inside. So hopping into those mistakes, mistake number 1, and I see this again and again, you are not solving a problem. And I think we jump into what we think people need rather than doing the research and figuring out exactly what it is that the people we're trying to serve need. What is their problem? What is the thing that keeps them up at night? What is the thing that frustrates them on a daily basis, takes up their time, and prohibits their business from moving forward? And once we look at that, and it can be as simple as, let's say a restaurant. Let's look at a local restaurant. So, we have a little neighborhood next to me that it's kind of it kind of reminds me of like an old town feel where they have a bunch of homes, different ones that are like townhomes, and then they have regular single family homes, and then they have lofts that are available, and then they have a community area, and they have a pool and all that kind of stuff. Well, in that community, they also have several restaurants and some retail and different things like that. And so most of those places do pretty well. However, when you look at, say, a restaurant, you've got to really differentiate yourself. And there's a restaurant in that location that has done really well for a really long time. They've done a great job of promoting and all that stuff. Well, recently some competition moved in, and the competition is doing really well as also. However, when I look at the two restaurants, they are very, very similar. They have very similar offerings. The one that was there first has built into their menu so that they're serving not just lunch and dinner like the new location, but they're serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And so when I look at those, there are a few similarities, but if I were to go and ask the people that have gone to both locations, they would probably say, yeah, I wouldn't pick one over the other. Whereas if you looked at that location prior to opening that restaurant, you would see there were definitely some lapses in menu that could have gone in that location and done really, really well. So one would be like maybe some sort of Asian fusion. Like there's no Asian food anywhere near where we live. And so if it were me and I were going to open a restaurant, I'd be like, yeah, we need to have some sort of Asian food, sushi, Japanese, Thai, Chinese, any kind of Asian, or maybe a combination of all of those things. But, right where we are in the neighborhood that we are, it's a good 10-15 minute drive to get to Asian food. And so people, let's face it, people are lazy. A lot of people, they have a lot of like foot traffic there. So you could also do, I'm trying to think of another cuisine that would be a good fit over there, but something that's very healthy, like maybe you have a juice bar or something like that, that's totally different than what's already there. And so it'll be interesting to see how it pans out. But instead of looking at the arena before they went in there and opened that restaurant, they're just like, oh, I had this idea and I'm going to open this restaurant. It's going to be a community place to eat. And we're going to offer, just kind of a variety menu. It's almost the exact setup of the restaurant that was already there. And there's some differences in menu, but is that enough to differentiate them in the marketplace? And is that really solving a problem? Like if it were me, I would have gone out and done some research in the area and said, hey, what's really missing from this neighborhood, like as far as a restaurant? And so if you know anything about the restaurant industry, it is a huge industry. There are tons of restaurants that open on a daily basis, somewhere in the billions. And the reality is one, restaurants are not very lucrative. 95 cents of every dollar goes back into the restaurant. And so you're looking at maybe a 5% profit margin, 10 if you're lucky. Usually you don't make any profit in the first year. And in addition to that, there's a ton of competition. And so if you're not doing the things that you need to be doing from the marketing end before you open up shop, you're going to be hurting. You're going to be in trouble. And like I said, as I started this episode, a lot of people hop on social and they think that's going to be the savior for their business. When in reality, they would have done a much better job pre-launch to pre-opening that restaurant and building an email list and sharing some value prior to open date. So I know particularly this restaurant that we went to, and it's very good. I mean, I have nothing against it, but went there and I know for a fact that they had hardly anyone at their grand opening. And I would say that's because they did a poor job of one, promoting and advertising, but two, being aware of what needed to happen in that area, in that demographic. So if they would have gone in and tried to solve a problem, as I'm suggesting you do in whatever your business platform is, prior to trying to email or serve something up on social or whatever that looks like, look and see what problem you're solving and if the problem actually exists by doing some market research, or if you're just coming up with that idea on your own. So yeah, those are my suggestions: is do some market research and make sure that you have some differentiation. Another area that I see this really lacking in is in the area of real estate. Now, Denver is a really hot market. And I'm pretty sure at least half of the people in the state are now real estate agents, because, when there's a hot market, everybody jumps on board. And what I find is that when you meet a real estate agent or you look at their marketing, you see, yeah, we sell everybody a home, anybody that has skin. I'm like, wow, you're like every other realtor out there. Whereas if you look at the people who have differentiated themselves in the real estate market, one, they're doing absolutely fantastic, and two, they never hurt for business because they are known for a specific type of real estate. And one person that comes to mind in this arena, and I'm pretty sure he doesn't listen to this podcast, but he's an awesome fella, and he specializes in single level living. And so he only works with people who want to live in a ranch style environment. And it doesn't necessarily have to be people that are retired or older. There are people that have health issues that they have to stay on a single level living situation. And that's what he's known for. Doesn't mean he never sells a bi-level or a tri-level. No, absolutely not. People are going to go to him if they want to do real estate deals or not. However, he has specifically stated a problem. There's people that need to live on a single level. Those are the people I help. And so he became and has become known as that industry expert. And he knows, every single one that goes on the market. He knows every single new community that is going to have that available. And he has tied into that really, really well. So look at that and see What's a problem in your industry that you could solve that no one else is solving, or that somebody isn't solving well? And you can also get some market insight by doing surveys with people either that you've worked with or people that you meet. And they don't have to be fancy. They don't have to be even online. You can just pick up a phone and, maybe have 4 or 5 questions mapped out on a piece of paper and just type the answers into an Excel spreadsheet as they give them to you. You're going to go in and you're going to see some similarities really quickly, even if you just do this with 10, 15, 20 people. And you're going to say, oh, I'm on target. I'm doing what I need to be doing. Or you're going to realize I'm way off base. These people want something totally different. And one of my favorite sayings is sell them what they want, give them what they need. And so regardless of what you're putting out there, when you're creating your opt-in, you need to give them what they want and then move them in through your sales funnel to what they actually need. And another tip that I have for you in this area, I have 2 more, is to target your ideal customer. And I know that we sometimes have a lot of fear around really narrowing in who we help, but it can be so much easier to create content and create free downloads and create emails that are really specific when you know who you're talking to. And if you don't know who that is, like I'm thinking about John and, that does real estate, and he knows really specific that some of the hurdles and interests of the people that are wanting to live in that, that single story lifestyle type of environment. And so it makes it really easy for him to create different opt-ins for people to opt in for email or have certain events or, brush up on certain pieces of education or industry knowledge in that arena. Versus a typical realtor, if they're trying to serve everybody, it becomes really overwhelming, because you have to know all the listings that are available. You have to know all of the different interests that are available for people. And if you don't know all of that, or you don't specify who you help, it is really difficult to, 1, become known, and 2, to create regular content that doesn't just melt in with everybody else's. So figure out who you're talking to, and then do less talking about you and more talking about them. And all of those items, if you're doing those things, are going to make your opt-in much more viable and interesting in the marketplace. And you'll have a bigger response to people opting in, because you actually have attacked a specific subject for a specific person and offered a specific solution. And what's even better is if you can give people a quick win in that quick little, whether it's a video training or a download or an audio or whatever it is you decide to create for your download. If you can give people a quick win for one specific problem in a specific group of people, you're going to have a win-win-win situation. So the second reason that you may not have people opting into your email list is you may have the best opt-in in the world and you love it and you've heard that you loved it, but you haven't told anybody about it. You haven't done any promoting. You haven't put it out there enough. You put it out once and you're like, oh, nobody opted in. How many people have done that? Like, I know I have. Like, nobody saw my stuff. Well, how many times did you put it out there? 1. No. It takes 7 to 8 times to put something in front of people before they even acknowledge it, before they even start to pay attention. There is so much noise in the world that you have to keep putting. You might feel like, oh my gosh, I put this out there constantly. However, some people will see it the first time, some people will see it the second time, some people won't see it till the 8th time. And so you've got to promote it and you've got to continue to put it in front of people in order for people to be aware of it. And that can be really hard, I think, for people that are introverted, I think is the word I'm looking for. Is if you're really introverted, it's kind of hard to put yourself out there again and again and again and again, but it really does need to happen. So the tips that I have for this specific problem are: 1, there's no magic website fairy. Just because you put up a brand new schmancy fancy website, you can have all the SEO in the world, but if you're not telling people about it, no one is coming. Even if you're doing, regular content, it takes a while to build a following. So make sure you're putting it out there. Going back to putting it out there 7 or 8 times, just remember that marketing is an exercise in memorization. You want people to remember who you are, what you do, and how you help them. And if you're able to do that on a regular basis, you will become known as the person who is the go-to person in that industry. The third is to be aware of when and where you're promoting. So this goes back to knowing your ideal client. If you're promoting all the time on LinkedIn, but your ideal client is on Facebook, you have a problem. And if you're promoting in the middle of the day and all of your ideal clients are at work, they're not on social media, typically, you're going to have a hard time reaching them. So just be aware of, number one, who you're serving, and number 2 and 3, when and where they're on the places that you're promoting. So, for example, if you're promoting to a specific city and you put up a billboard and it's not in that city, they're not going to see it. That would be ridiculous. Why would you do that? So just being aware, of course you're not going to do that. So just being aware of, where your people are, and make sure that they're on the platform that you're wanting to promote on. And then the other tip that I have in this particular area is to make sure it's really easy for people, your subscribers or people that are seeing your content, to share it. Because if you've got, say, somebody in a chatbot and they opt in to be part of a live broadcast or webinar or something like that, you want to be able to give them the opportunity and make it very easy for them to share that with their friends or other people that they know that could use the same training, same information, or same the same education and stuff that you're trying to promote to that person. There are other people they know. Like I know, as an entrepreneur, I know tons of people who need to know different pieces of business. So, for example, if an accountant was doing a specific webinar on the tax changes coming in for 2020 and how to prepare in 2019 to make make the best choices for your tax season, if I was going to a webinar on that, I know probably 5 people, 10 people off the top of my head that I could easily forward that email to and say, hey, so-and-so is doing a webinar and I think it's going to be really good. You might want to check it out. Now, whether or not they do, I have no control over that. But because the person giving the webinar made it really easy for me to share, I am 10 times more likely going to share that with somebody else than I am to try and share it if it's not easy to share it. So there are definitely some tools in built-in tools, and then other tools you can utilize to make that happen. So tip number 3, or problem number 3, this is kind of a funny one. You're making it really hard for people to opt in. And this can be any number of things. It can be that your actual opt-in form isn't functioning correctly, or it takes too long to read, or it takes too long to load. You have way too much going on the actual form, and you're not making it clear what you want them to do. You're asking for too much information. I know a lot of people are like, here, fill out your whole ID card information for a webinar, and people aren't going to do that. You're going to be lucky if you get a first name and an email. People are really protective of their personal information anymore, and that includes email addresses. So my recommendation is to always just ask for the minimum. You can always get the other information later when they're closer to becoming a client or a paying customer. You don't need all of that information up front. I always say try to at least get a first name so you can personalize emails. But sometimes people won't even do that. And it's okay. If you got that email address, it's easier to reach out and try and get the additional information later, but at least you've got the email. So when you're completing your download in your download form, be really clear about focusing in one direction or one piece of information. A lot of times, specifically for training events and webinars, I think people try to cover way too much information instead of just focusing on one simple thing and then giving the steps and tricks around how to do that one specific thing. So, for example, say you're a weight loss coach and you are, your goal is to help people lose 15 pounds over 50. Well, a lot of people will be interested in signing up for that program, but when you start to go into the tactics and all the information right up front about how to do that and all of the other pieces, you're just going to lose people because 1, it's overwhelming, 2, it's confusing, and 3, it's not incenting them to take action. And so just be really careful, especially with those opt-in forms, that you keep it very simple, very clear, and you tell them exactly what you want them to do. The other piece of this that can be really frustrating is technology itself. You may have people opt in for whatever freebie you're giving them, and let's just use video. So you have a video series, and they do all of the components, and you've tried to do the best you can at warning them about different things that could be a hiccup, like it could go to spam, things like that. But for some reason, they just don't get the email. Or they don't confirm their email address for double opt-in, and then the other email never comes because they didn't confirm their subscription. So just making sure that you set all of that up and you test it, and maybe whether you have 2 email accounts or you have somebody that can help you test it on your team, or you have a friend that can help you test that, just make sure you test it a few times and that everything goes through without a hitch. And I've had this happen with videos specifically, where I will send out an email with a video in it, and I think I have all the security, settings correct, and they'll try to click on the email or on the video on the email, and they're like, it won't let them watch it. And so I have to go back in and reset the security and make sure that it's, open to the public and all that kind of stuff. And I wouldn't know that because I have access to the video. However, the person that got the email does not. And so sometimes it's hard to test those things. So having somebody outside of your, immediate circle and your immediate team to test those things for you is really helpful. So just make sure that those are going off without a hitch, and that your funnel isn't broken in some way or form, and that you've done your testing. And then the last tip that I have for this one is don't hide your opt-in form. Like, how many websites have you been to where you go and there's so much going on, number 1, that your eye doesn't even know where to look. Number 2, there's so many options on the menu that you're just like, I don't know what to do here. And number 3, their opt-in form is like at the bottom, and it's usually the very bottom of the page, as though, if you even get there, if people even get that far. And then it's like, sign up for our newsletter. Oh, for the love of Pete, do not do that. No one wants to sign up for your newsletter. No one. They don't know what that is. They don't know what's in it. They don't care. Make it interesting. Make it, at least if you're going to, try to recruit them to your newsletter, be really specific. So if you have a restaurant, sign up for our weekly inside restaurant recipe. What our recipe for homemade apple pie. Or whatever, your featured recipe, so that at least if they're signing up for an email list, it's for something specific, so they know they're going to get recipes from you every week, versus sign up for our newsletter. I mean, nobody knows what that is, and people don't, newsletters are gone. Like, it's just kind of a wasted technique. Most people are not going to just sign up for a newsletter. They want to know what's in it. Okay, moving right along. Problem number 4. You haven't made the process clear to them on how to opt in, or what you want them to do. And I would say this is another failing point, especially if you're looking at a website that just has a ton going on, and you give them 2 or 3 actions in the first, 2 minutes of being on your site, and people that get overwhelmed or confused, they're not going to buy. They're just going to leave. They're not going to opt in. They're not going to give you anything. And so you've got to make it super clear, not only visually what you want them to do, but you need to tell them. So let's use an example of you're doing a Facebook Live and you're doing a training, and you have something very specific that you want them to go opt in for. So for an example, with the podcasts, typically I will, when I'm doing a training of some sort, I will have a download that I include. And what you'll notice if you listen to previous episodes is that it's usually my website URL and then a / in the episode number. And it makes it really easy for people to remember. And it also makes it really easy for them to go and do exactly what I ask them to do, which is go and fill out. I mean, the only page there is a form to fill out to get the freebie for that episode. There's not a bunch of there's no menus on that page. There's no other distractions. There's no ads on the side. It's just here's the form, fill it out. This is what you're going to get. And you need to make it that clear, regardless of how you're driving people there. I highly recommend, if you're doing an opt-in, that you just in some way differentiate it from the rest of the information on your site so that they know really specifically what to do when they get there. And then also communicate really well, whether that's via email or if you're doing it in person or you're doing a Facebook Live or you're doing a video. Make it really clear what you want them to do. And tell them. And I think sometimes as entrepreneurs, we think people are mind readers. And the last time I checked, I am not a mind reader. I don't know about you guys, but most people I know are not mind readers. So you can teach and teach and teach and train and do all this stuff. But if you never tell somebody to go take action, you will not get any action, is what I'm trying to say. So that is tip number 1. And then the last tip that I have for this particular problem is you need to be really clear on explaining what the result is. So if they go and they download this great freebie that you've given them, you need to be really clear about, okay, so what are they going to have at the end? So for example, I have a 5-day challenge that I run for people to create a great download. And I'm really clear that it's 5 steps. You're going to do 1 step every day. And at the end, you're going to have a download. You're going to have your very first or your very best download that you've ever had that you can pop on your website and start building your list. And so talking about the end result with your people is really important, because if they don't have an end result, they have nothing to aim for, just like with goals. And they don't know that it's going to solve the problem that they have unless you tell them that it will and explain to them how it will. So that's problem number 4. Problem number 5. Okay, this is, I'm reading this because I have an outline. I was like, wow, I must have been in a mood. But your messaging sucks. And messaging can be really hard. Copywriting can be really hard. But what makes it harder is if you don't know who you're talking to, you don't know how you solve their problem, you don't know how to emotionally connect to them. And so some other things that can really make your messaging suck are you're not sure what you're offering. I know as entrepreneurs, I don't know how many networking meetings I've been to, but I'm sure you guys can relate. You go in and there's, you do your little 10-second commercial or 30-second commercial, and there's always the person that's like, I do this and I do that and I do that. And they do like 37 things. And at the end, you're like, what? I don't know what they do, because they just gave me a laundry list. And so if that's your offering and you're offering, 72 things for people, you're not going to be very successful with your download either. Like, you just need to pick one thing. So instead of doing email marketing, for example, I would focus on, I'm going to help you write a download. I'm going to help you create a download. Instead of trying to cover, all of social media, I'm going to talk to you specifically about Facebook advertising via video. So you get the idea. You want to make it as specific as possible so that, 1, it narrows the number of people that you attract and you're going to get better attraction results. And 2, it leaves the confusion behind. And then another faux pas that I see, and I actually just saw this, I have quite a few food and beverage industry people that I follow, and there was one last week. There was some event, I don't know, it was all initials, I don't have it in front of me, but it was a winery, and there was some like Pinot Noir event that they had, and all they kept doing was hashtag PNOC, and I'm like, or ICPN, I think that's what it was, ICPN, and I'm like looking at it, I'm like, I don't even know what ICPN is. And like, they put it all over their social media, and I was just like, do any of your followers even understand this? Like, this is industry information. You need to be saying, we're at this awesome Pinot Noir event, and here's why you should know about it. Here's why we go. And then do a hashtag awesome wine. Like, people understand hashtag awesome wine. They don't understand hashtag ICPN. Nobody knows. That's all industry terms. And so people get really caught up, especially if you're in a very technical world. I even think in marketing, we get into using really technical language, and we forget that not everyone is as up to speed on social media or marketing tactics as we are. So just taking it down to human level language, I say the best guideline is usually use language that a 3rd grader can use or would understand. And that's not because your audience is unintelligent. It's because your audience is one, likely consuming your content on the fly and they want it to be easy to understand. And two, if you make them think about it too hard, they're just not going to. If they have to sit there and really concentrate on what you're trying to tell them, they're not going to concentrate on it. They're just going to move on to something else. People are busy and you need to grab their attention and make it really easy for them to understand. And that was my final tip for problem number 4. So how can you fix your failing funnel? If your funnel is a failure at the moment, and that simply means you just need to try something else, tweak it, and make it work. I don't really look at failure like most people. It's not the come all to end all. It's just one more place that you can start to make change so that you can get a different result. So look at it that way. So number 1 tip to repair your broken funnel is to get really clear on your audience and really get to know them. Get to know them inside and out so that when you are talking to them, you almost feel like it's a conversation with an old friend on the couch. Like, you know what they're worried about, you know what's concerning them, you know the ins and outs of what they do on a daily basis, you know what their life looks like, and it becomes really easy for you to offer help and suggestions to them because you're really aware of them. Number 2, test and retest your sales funnel. And I would say even test and test again. To make sure it works, to make sure it's easy, to make sure that all of your different components and pieces go off without a hitch, because it's really easy to think. And in fact, I just had this happen this week and I know better. And I just let it get away from me. I am participating in a particular giveaway with a bunch of other ladies online. And I had set up the landing page and then got distracted and totally forgot to set up the other components. And so it was going to an old email automation. All the dates were wrong. Everything was wrong. So I got up in a panic yesterday morning and I had to get up and I had to fix it all. And I was like, and it was good that I did. I mean, it was a blessing in disguise that I got up and looked at it really early. Like it was like 6:30 in the morning, 6 or 6:30. And I was like, oh, crud. I forgot to do this. And so it was a good thing because by today, when I looked at it, I had a bunch of people that had opted in. And I was like, oh, if this would have been screwed up for all those people, that would have been bad. I would have been eating mud pie or whatever they say. So just test it, make sure it works, make sure everything goes off without a hitch. Number 3, perfect your messaging so that it's super clear, super easy to follow, and most importantly is providing some sort of value to the people you're trying to attract. If you're not providing value, they're going to be out the door. It's got to be all about them. It's got to be really clear, and it's got to explain to them exactly how you're going to help them. Number 4, make it really easy for people to sign up for whatever freebie you're giving away and to also share your freebie with others. By adding shareable links in your email, on your thank you pages, on your landing pages, and all the other places that you can add a share button. I highly recommend doing that. There are several plugins out there for WordPress. So if you have a WordPress site, I highly recommend Monarch to do this. It's part of the Divi suite of products. And I guess it's Elegant Themes. It's not Divi. Elegant Themes makes the Divi theme, but they also have Monarch, and they have a lot of different options to set that up. There are other ones out there that you can utilize as well, and I will actually pop a couple of those into the show notes. They are not coming to they're not top of mind, so I'll just make sure I pop them into the show notes so you can have links to a couple other options. But I specifically build for WordPress, so I don't have a lot of options for outside of WordPress. But I'm sure if you just Google or you look at, your website provider, if you have Wix or Squarespace or something, they probably have share links as well. And then one that just came across my radar is being able to share via Facebook Messenger and other stuff like that. So take a look and see what works best for your business, but just make it really easy for people to do that. And then my last bit of advice for this episode is just I use the KISS analogy. And instead of, a lot of people will say that stands for keep it simple, stupid, or something like that. And I don't like that. So I just keep it super simple for your audience and for the people that you're trying to attract. And don't make it complicated. Don't use complicated language. Don't have too much content on there. And don't make it hard for them to take action. I mean, the number one thing you want them to do is to put their email address in there. So as simple as you can make that, as easy as you can make it, and as uncomplicated or unobstructed you can make that, the easier and quicker you're going to be able to attract more people to your opt-in and more people to actually fill out that form and get on your email list. So that's what I've got for this week. Next week, I have a whole another podcast. Oh, it's all okay. So y'all know, or if you don't know, we are smack in the middle of and going into seminar season. So I wanted to give you guys some tips on how to make the most of seminar events and trainings that you're going to, so that you can actually take that information, come back, and put it into action. So that's what I'll be talking about next week. Thanks so much for tuning in this week. And until then, I hope you have a great week, and I will see you soon. Just a reminder, don't forget to sign up for my free training to create your irresistible download. Everybody wants a great free download. Why shouldn't you have one too? Grow and build your email list so you can get more clients by joining me on my free training at elisaconnor.com/create my freebie. I'll see you soon.